Imagine a jungle. Not the jungle you picture from movies. Clean paths, filtered light, dramatic vistas. A real jungle. Stinging ants, monsoon rain, snakes, dense vegetation so thick that daylight becomes rumor. Now imagine living there for decades, waking up every morning with a single purpose: fighting a war. The war ended before you finished learning the jungle, and nobody told you. This is a true story. Let's get into it. It is December 26th, 1944. A young man is 22 years old, and he has just received his orders. He is second lieutenant in the Imperial Japanese Army, but not an ordinary one. He has been selected for something most soldiers never see: Japan's Elite Intelligence and Covert Operations Academy, the Nakano School, an institution so secretive that most of its graduates were never officially acknowledged to have attended it. At Nakano, he was not trained to fight and die. He was trained to fight and survive. Standard Japanese military code, the Senjin-kun, required soldiers to die rather than to be captured. Surrender was considered the deepest dishonor a soldier could commit. Nakano graduates were given the opposite instruction: do not surrender. Do not take your own life. You are too valuable as an intelligence asset to waste on a battlefield death. That single distinction will matter more than anything else in this story. His orders are specific. He is deployed to Lubang Island, a small mountainous island in the Philippines, roughly 93 miles southwest of Manila. He is to destroy the airship and the pier before Allied forces can use them. He is to resist any enemy landing. Under no circumstances is he to surrender. Under no circumstances is he to take his own life. Before he leaves, his commanding officer looks at him and says the following words: "You are absolutely forbidden to die by your own hand. It may take 3 years, it may take 5, but whatever happens, we'll come back for you. Until then, so long as you have one soldier, you are to continue to lead him." He believed that promise completely. He had every reason to. His commanding officer had given him a direct order, a personal guarantee, and a specific instruction. He was 22 years old, extraordinarily well-trained, and absolutely certain of what he was doing. He boarded the transport. He sailed to Lubang. He was not going to come back for a very long time. February 28th, 1945. 64 days after he arrived on Lubang Island, American forces take control of it. The fighting is swift and decisive. Most Japanese soldiers are killed. Some are captured. Some escape by sea. 4 men retreat into the mountains and disappear into the jungle. The young lieutenant, Private Yuichi Akatsu, Corporal Shoichi Shimada, and Private First Class Kinshichi Kazuka. They set up camp. They wait. The counteroffensive is coming. It has to be coming. Their commanding officer promised. August 15th, 1945, 168 days after the last battle for Lubang Island. Emperor Hirohito announces Japan's surrender on the radio. The announcement is broadcast across the Pacific, across the Philippines, across the island of Lubang. In the mountains, 4 men hear nothing. September 2nd, 1945. 18 days after the Emperor's announcement, Japan formally surrenders aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. The Second World War is officially over. More than 70 million people are dead. An entire era of human history has ended. In the mountains of Lubang Island, 4 men are still waiting for the counteroffensive. Approximately 6 weeks after Japan's formal surrender, the group finds a leaflet tucked near an abandoned cow left by local islanders. It is handwritten, and it reads exactly this: "The war ended on August 15. Come down from the mountain." They study it carefully, they discuss it at length among themselves, and then they reach a conclusion that is, within their framework, entirely logical. It is Allied propaganda. Their reasoning is precise. If the war had truly ended, enemy forces would have stopped firing on them. They had been fired upon recently. Therefore, the war had not ended. Therefore, this leaflet was a fabrication designed to lure them out of hiding. The logic is airtight. The premise is wrong. The gap between the perfect internal logic and the false foundation it rests on is where this story lives. Weeks later, leaflets are dropped from an aircraft, not from islanders this time, from General Tomoyuki Yamashita himself, commander of the 14th Area Army, the young lieutenant's own chain of command, a formal surrender order, dropped directly onto the island where he was stationed. He studies these leaflets even more carefully than the first ones. He concludes they're forgeries, filled with mistakes. And here's what you need to understand about his training. At the Nakano School, he had been taught to identify enemy propaganda. He was one of the best his country had ever produced at detecting deception. He could look at a document and identify the subtle errors that betrayed it as fake. He could hear a voice and determine whether it had been coached. So he applied that expertise to everything. Every leaflet, every official document, every photograph dropped from a plane, every voice calling his name from the jungle's edge. The more convincing something looked, the more suspicious it made him, because he knew that a sophisticated enemy would make their deception look convincing. A crude fake would be easy to dismiss. A polished fake required more careful analysis, more skepticism, and more vigilance. He was not irrational, he was not stupid, and he was not broken. He was rigorously, methodically, devastatingly consistent with his own training. That is the horror of it. The years pass. September 1949, 4 years after the war ended, Private Akatsu quietly separates from the group. He's been growing uncertain for months, uncertain that the war is still being fought, uncertain that their position is correct, uncertain about everything. 6 months later, after surviving alone in the jungle, he surrenders to Philippine forces. The remaining 3 men view this as desertion, as a profound betrayal of everything they stand for. They become significantly more cautious. If Akatsu has told the enemy their location, their habits, their routine, then every approach must now be treated as a coordinated trap. February 1952, 6 years and 5 months after the war ended, an aircraft drops personal letters over the island, letters written by each soldier's family, begging them to come home. Photographs accompany the letters, images of parents, siblings, homes. The young lieutenant studies his photograph carefully. His hometown looks wrong to him, rebuilt in ways he doesn't recognize. What he doesn't know is that his hometown was bombed during the war and reconstructed in the years since. To him, the altered skyline is evidence of tampering, evidence that the photograph has been fabricated to look authentic. He reads his family's letter, he recognizes the handwriting, and still he cannot accept what it says. By his own account, written years later, he and Kazuka had by this point developed so many fixed ideas that we reached a point where we were unable to understand anything that did not conform to them. He wasn't lying when he wrote that. He wasn't making excuses. He was describing, with remarkable clarity, what had happened to his mind. The framework had become the world. Anything outside the framework was the enemy. What does it take to reach a man like that? June 1953, 7 years and 9 months after the war ended. Corporal Shimada is shot in the leg during a confrontation with local fishermen. The young lieutenant nurses him carefully back to health over several months in the jungle, tending the wound with whatever resources he has. They have been together for 8 years. They have kept each other alive through everything. May 7th, 1954. 11 months after he was shot, Shimada is killed during an encounter with a Philippine Army patrol. The bullet finds him before anybody realizes what is happening. 2 men remain. They go deeper into the mountains. 1959, 14 years after the war ended, the Japanese government officially declares all 3 soldiers dead. The declaration is intended to bring administrative closure to the situation. Instead, it effectively reduces the organized search effort. The government presumes that if the men are legally dead, the problem has resolved itself. He is a legally dead man. He is in a jungle. He is still at war. The world has moved on so completely that his government has stopped looking for him, and he interprets the reduction in search activity not as abandonment, but as confirmation. The enemy is pulling back because the Japanese forces are advancing. The tide is turning. The counteroffensive is coming. He sharpens his rifle. He waits. October 19th, 1972. 27 years and 47 days after the war ended, Kazuka is killed. Shot by local police during one of the group's recurring nighttime raids on farmers' rice stores. Operations they've been conducting for years to supplement their jungle diet. Kazuka is 51 years old. The young lieutenant is now completely alone. The news of Kazuka's death reaches Japan and shocks the country. It proves beyond any doubt that the lieutenant may still be alive. International media descend on the story. The Japanese government organizes an intensive new search operation. More than 100 people, 90 million yen, teams entering the jungle from multiple locations, ships broadcasting messages offshore, leaflets dropping from planes, family members calling out his name. He does not emerge. He watches the search parties from the trees. He listens to the voices. He studies the leaflets as they fall. He concludes it's another attempt to draw him out. He goes deeper. February 20th, 1974. 16 months after Kazuka died, a young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki arrives on Lubang Island. He's 23 years old. He is traveling the world with no particular itinerary. He treats the missing soldier like a curiosity, a legend, something to be found in the same spirit of adventure as a mythical creature. He finds him in 4 days. After the government's 100-person operation failed, after 90 million yen was spent, after nearly 3 decades of searching by trained military personnel, intelligence operatives, family members, and government officials, a young man with no particular plan finds him in 4 days. When Suzuki appears in the jungle, the lieutenant raises his rifle immediately. Suzuki identifies himself as Japanese, speaks calmly, and does not run. Over several days they talk. Genuinely talk. Perhaps for the first time, the lieutenant has spoken at length with someone from outside his shrinking world. Suzuki tells him the war is over. He tells him Japan has been rebuilt. He tells him the world has completely changed. The lieutenant listens to all of it and tells Suzuki he will only accept orders from his commanding officer. Not from a young traveler, not from a leaflet, not from a government announcement, not from his own family. His commanding officer or nothing. Suzuki leaves the island. He carries photographs he has taken, images of himself standing beside a uniformed soldier in a jungle on an island the world had forgotten. He brings those photographs to Japan. The government uses them to locate the commanding officer. The commanding officer is found. He is living quietly. He has spent the last 29 years selling books. The man who personally ordered a 22-year-old soldier to fight forever, who looked him in the eye and said, "Whatever happens, we'll come back for you," had spent the following 29 years behind a bookstore counter. While his soldier was in the jungle stealing rice from farmers to stay alive, his commanding officer was shelving inventory and helping customers find what they were looking for. He boards a plane. He flies to Lubang Island. March 9th, 1974. 17 days after Suzuki found him, the commanding officer walks into the jungle. He finds his soldier. His soldier is 52 years old. His uniform is faded but intact. He has repaired it himself over and over for 30 years, with whatever materials the jungle provided. His rifle is in full working condition, not corroded, not jammed, not rusted into decoration, fully functional. 500 rounds of ammunition, still viable. Several hand grenades, his sword, and a dagger his mother gave him in 1944, pressed into his hand before he left, to be used for his own death if he was captured. He carried it for 30 years, and he never used it. The commanding officer reads the formal orders aloud. In accordance with the Imperial Command, the 14th Area Army has ceased all combat activity. In accordance with Military Headquarters Command Number A2003, the Special Squadron of Staff's headquarters is relieved of all military duties. Units and individuals under the command of Special Squadron are to cease military activities and operations immediately and place themselves under the command of the nearest superior officer. When no officer can be found, they are to communicate with the American or Philippine forces and follow their directives. The soldier weeps. Not because the war is over. In some sense, he is known, on some level beneath language, for years, decades perhaps, that what he was doing had stopped making sense. Not because he is relieved, not because he is angry. He weeps because the voice is right, because the orders are legitimate, because after 10,416 days, the only authority he had ever trusted has finally come to find him. The promise was kept 30 years late. March 10th, 1974. The next morning, he walks out of the jungle. He is wearing his original uniform, his sword at his side, his rifle in his hands, his mother's dagger, unused, on his belt. He hands each item over individually: the sword, the rifle, the ammunition, the grenades, the dagger. When reporters ask what was going through his mind during those 29 years, he answers without hesitation, "Nothing but accomplishing my duty." Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos grants him a full pardon at a formal ceremony. Up to 30 civilians had been killed during his 29-year campaign, and more than 100 injured. The Japanese government proposes substantial financial compensation. Marcos declines it as a personal payment, but accepts it redirected towards Japanese language education and student exchange between the two countries. He returns to Japan, to a country he does not recognize. Prosperous, modern, and to him, spiritually hollow. He gives his back pay to a shrine. He moves to Brazil, where his older brother has lived for years. He becomes a cattle rancher. He marries. He builds a nature school for young people, a survival camp, because he believes the next generation has lost the resilience that defined his own. In 1996, 22 years after he emerged from the jungle, he returns to Lubang for the first time. His wife arranges a scholarship for the local school. 50 relatives of people killed during his campaign protest his arrival. He dies on January 16, 2014, 40 years after he walked out of the jungle. He is 91 years old. His name was Hiroo Onoda. And what do you do with a story like that? A man trained so completely in a single purpose that he could not stop performing it even after the purpose was gone? A man whose greatest strength, his ability to resist deception, became the prison that held him for 30 years? A man who was never irrational, who simply built a framework so airtight that reality itself could not get inside. He was 22 when he went into that jungle. He was 52 when he came out. 30 years of life spent in absolute fidelity to an order that the man who gave it had long since stopped thinking about. What does loyalty become when the mission outlives its meaning? What does duty become when there is no one left to receive it? And here's the question that stays with you long after the story ends. How would you know? How would any of us know if we were doing the same thing? Holding on to a framework, fighting a war, waiting for a counteroffensive that is never coming. In a jungle we built ourselves, from orders we were given a long time ago, by someone who has since moved on. And now you know the weird part. Sweet dreams.